Welcome back to another episode on Life Notes with Peris. And today I want to talk about failure in our 30s and how failure in our 30s feels so different. You know, you have worked on that career, you've worked hard, you got a good job, and all of a sudden, you don't have a job anymore. The contract was meant to be for 3 years. And maybe somehow, somewhere, you kind of got so comfortable and forgot that 3 years are knocking at your door. And there you are. You're now jobless. And you know, it feels like a big failure at your 30s, more than how it would feel in your 20s. Why? Because now you have more responsibilities. Maybe you have a family, you have children, you have a wife depending on you. But I want to encourage you that this is your life-changing moment. Sometimes bad luck comes your way, so you can wake up to your potential. And sometimes it comes your way so that it can redirect you to exactly who you're supposed to be. And sometimes in your 30s, this is when you had a relationship that was doing very well and is just about to knock your door on marriage. And at last, somebody else comes in. Some other woman comes in the picture, or some other man comes in the picture. And these are the moments we feel that we have crashed. We feel like all our time that we spent in that relationship has come into a drain. And you feel so broken. But you know what? Sometimes those people that walk away, at that point, they're actually maybe opening a door for you, for a better person. You know, the only way I could encourage you is to stay positive. Look at the lesson in this kind of heartbreak and reflect back. Maybe it was actually the best decision they made for you, because maybe you are not willing to let go. And now they've gone. And so you're able to pick up yourself and move on. And you know, sometimes I celebrate those people whose breakups come just right before their marriages. I usually say, thank God it happened before your marriage. At least you still have more opportunity to get into another relationship. Because as for me, the breakup in my 30s came when I was married with children. And you know, at that point, I can promise you, I felt like a failure. I can't tell you how many books I read, how many videos I watched, just to find out, where did I fail? How did I fail? Why didn't I keep this marriage? Why did it have to happen? But you know, it's because I had swept under the carpet all the red flags. And at this point, it felt like I'm a failure. And you know, the truth is, the society also feels like you are a failure. I can't tell you how many times my mom felt like, no, you shouldn't even come home, because you know, the whole village knows that my daughter got married, and all of a sudden she's now coming home with her children and she's not married. Please, in fact, you should not even don't come to church with us on a Sunday. You know, the feeling of her also. The society has created an environment whereby you look like a failure. So her feeling was, even going to church with her was not good. I was ruining her image by saying, I'm divorcing from a marriage that was so big, and all of a sudden, I'm saying I can't stay there anymore. I remember my mom begging me to stay. I told her, no, it's killing me. I can't do it. Because they look at that moment as a way of failure. And I tell you, I felt like one. I felt I failed in marriage. But when I reflected back, I looked at all the reasons and I said, you know what? I didn't fail. I wanted the best for myself. And I also wanted the best for my children. I wanted them to grow in an environment that was loving. I wanted them to learn what is love. I wanted them to know that marriage works, but it only works in a loving environment. I wanted them to know that there's something called character. And it doesn't matter how big you become, your character must always stand out. And your character is the only thing that can put together your family. It's the only thing that can cause you to maintain the positions, the big positions that you have wherever you go. And those are the things that I felt a failure. But I want to remind you that it doesn't matter how much you failed. You can always decide to pick up the pieces and stand again. And I know it is not as easy as spoken, because I had my sleepless nights of crying. I had my sleepless nights wondering why and how would I wake up again. But I can promise you, sometimes your crashing is actually directing you to a new you. And I'm speaking to the single girls. You're a young single mother. This man just left you with your baby. And you're wondering, how do I begin again? I want to surprise you that there are so many young men out there that are willing to marry you and love you in a better way. But you know what? You've got to work on yourself first. You've got to work on your healing. You've got to work on becoming the best version of you. And when that time comes, you can raise your head again and look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm too beautiful to take anything less. I'm too beautiful. You know, I have both the beauty, the brains, and the money. I now know what I want. I'm not going for anything less. And that is why we feel our 30s as failure. But you're not failing. I want to encourage that person whereby your job has just decided, you've just lost your job and you feel like you're crumbling. Stand up. Because let me tell you, nobody will help you stand but yourself. You have to prefer to crawl, but ensure that you stand. Give yourself some strength. I always encourage myself with the Bible verse from Samuel. When David had lost everything and he asked God, should I pursue or should I not? And God told him, pursue. You're going to recover everything. But before David started pursuing, the Bible says David encouraged himself in the Lord. Sometimes we wait for people to encourage us. They're nowhere to be found. You just have to wake up and encourage yourself. Tell yourself, I can win again. Tell yourself, I can try again. Tell yourself, it's not the end. Tell yourself, the race has just begun. Give yourself the courage to do it again. And that is it. You're not a failure. You're just being redirected to the right place. Yeah, I know failure has consequences. Of course, that's the truth. When I lost a home, I have to build another one. It's not going to just crop up through a miracle. But you know what? I'm on that journey because I haven't given up. I haven't lost hope. And I'm working towards it. And I want to encourage you too and tell you that your failure at your 30s can be recovered if only you can rise up again. Stir up the courage in yourself. Speak to yourself every morning and tell yourself, I can do it again. As long as you're alive, and as long as God is alive, you can face tomorrow. See you in our next episode. And remember, keep believing in yourself. If you love this content, please consider to subscribe for more inspirational content.